And I'd like to welcome everyone to the Transportation Committee. I'm Councilwoman Heather Hutt, Chair of the committee, and I'm joined today with Councilwoman Hernandez. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Certainly, Madam Chair. Councilmember Hutt,
Here.
Councilmember Park, absent. Councilmember Hernandez.
Here.
2 members and a quorum, Madam Chair.
Thank you that we have established a quorum. Members, today we have 13 items on the agenda. Before we get to the items, Madam CLA, please read any amendments we have for the record.
We do not have any amendments at this time.
Oh, great. Now that we've established that we don't have any amendments, let's begin by taking public comment. Mr. Clerk, please provide the public with public comment instructions.
Certainly, Madam Chair. Members of the public who wish to speak up, you have 1 minute for one item and 2 minutes for multiple items. And if you sign up for general public comment, you get 1 minute. So if you sign up for multiple items and general public comment, you get a maximum of 3 minutes.
Thank you very much. Hakeem, please begin to conduct our public comment.
Thank you. So for public comment, step up to the podium. I'm going to call a few names at once. You hear your name, step to the podium. Batman, Goat Puppet, Arend Castellane, Armando Munoz. Last call. Goat Puppet, Batman, Arend, Armando. Three minutes.
Or basically you're telling niggers not to park in a particular area, but you know that's unconstitutional. Come on, this is America, folks. People don't have money, people don't have jobs, and inflation is kicking our ass. And now that the mayor has identified herself as a budget crisis and with layoffs, what the fuck are you people doing with this restrictions? If you're enforcing it, get the parking enforcers to make the fucking money and put the money where it goes, back into the general public comment, not the general piggy bank of these politicians, especially the 7 motherfuckers that prohibit me from using the word nigger, even though it is not an offensive word. It's just my expression of why I feel so bad about Los Angeles and every nigga that lives here as being disrupted by these Holocaust people here called community impact. Now look at here regarding another parking prohibition. When does it stop? You got the fucking Scientology putting shit on the sidewalk and streets. I want it removed. That's transportations. Barden versus Sacramento. I want my fucking sidewalk and streets back. And I want you to fix them. You understand that? Especially down the street by the LA Times on the corner there by the federal building. Fix the fucking access for pedestrians. That's called transportation, nigga. Look it up, rookie. Barden versus Sacramento. I'm taking back my fucking streets. One street at a time. Brandenburg versus Ohio makes that statement. Nigger will have to fight for every inch he gets from now on. Now into my general public comment, folks.
1 minute public
It's
comment.
hard to say that how you find my First Amendment, my free speech offensive when you don't understand my point. I think I brought the point to the attention of the FBI that, again, Los Angeles has 7 members, 7 criminals trying to take our rights away of free speech simply because I use the same acronyms like NWA, nigger with attitude, to these niggers, to MOU, make others understand. So if you're not going to work with the public, if you're not going to listen to the public, we're your bosses. We tell you how we want our city to run and function. Your job is to delegate the budget to make it last long. and not have this crisis of a so-called billion-dollar deficit, you morons. For the record. There
Thank you.
go. There you go. For the record.
Batman, RN, Armando Munoz, Donald Harlan, Ivana Mungia. Are any of those folks in the room? Kalayan Mendoza, Laura Esquivel, Maria Vasquez. Okay, next, your name and the items you wish to speak on.
Hi, good morning, council members. My name is Kalayaan Mendoza. I'm with People for Mobility Justice, speaking on agenda item 3.
Okay.
I'm here today
1 minute.
because Los Angeles is on the verge of losing critical mobility infrastructure. 40 blue LA stations, 200 public charging points, and 150 electric vehicles are at the point of being lost to serving thousands of low-income residents in frontline communities. The issues at hand is a transportation issue, an equity issue, a climate justice issue, and a public accountability issue. Millions in public funds, specifically $6 million for CARB STEPS program, $2 million in community development, block grant funds, and other city resources were secured for Blue LA's expansion. Yet not a single new station was built in South LA or East LA. LADOT's actions represent a failure of leadership and misuse of public funds. And we urge Mayor Bass and City Council to not let LADOT and Blink Mobility quietly erase this program.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Laura Esquivel, Maria Vasquez, Nadia Quintana, Rashad Douglas. Right up to the podium, please. Your name and the items you wish to speak on, please.
All right. My name is Rashad Douglas.
Thank you.
I wish to speak on item 3, and I'm with Trust South LA.
1 minute.
Okay. So, good morning, council members. My name is Rashad Douglas. I'm representing Trust South LA, and I'm here today because Los Angeles is on the verge of losing critical clean mobility infrastructure. As Kalayan before me mentioned, 40 Blue LA stations, 200 public charging points, and 150 electric vehicles that serve thousands of low-income residents are now on the verge of being eliminated. To say the least. This is not a transportation issue; it's a climate justice issue, and so yeah, my key arguments are LADOT's mismanagement and lack of accountability, millions of public funds, $6 million from CARB STEP program, and a bunch of other money has been mismanaged. LADOT quietly reprogrammed the $1.5 million in STEP funding without consulting the community, and this was a bait and switch for LADOT. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Ceres Barrios, Nadia Quintanilla, Maria Vasquez, Laura Esquivel, Jovan Houston, Ivana Mungia, Donald Harlan. Your name and the item you wish to speak on?
Item 3.
Thank you. 1 minute.
My name is Ivana Mungia. I'm a South LA resident as well as a Trust South LA staff member. And just like my colleague Rashad, we're here to raise concerns about the lack of accountability and on LADOT's behalf on lack of implementation for Blue LA stations and the possible removal of stations all throughout Los Angeles. Blue LA is a electric car vehicle car sharing program in LA, and Trust South LA as well as other members of our steering committee have been committed to doing the work and engaging the community about these resources. And now South LA is going to be left out of benefiting from this resource, and as well as the rest of the city, and we wanted to raise concerns about this issue.
Thank you. All right, last call. Arend Castine, Armando Munoz, Donald Harlan, Ivana Mungia, Jovan Houston, Laura Esquivel, Maria Vasquez, Nadia Q, and series. No respondents. That concludes public comment.
Is there anyone else that wants to speak on public comment whose name was not called? Seeing none. Now that we've concluded public comment, I'd like to say that it is officially closed, and let's jump on to our agenda. I'd like to take up non-controversial items. The items would be items 2 through 7. Mr. Clerk, please read the items onto the record.
Certainly, Madam Chair. Item 2 is Council File 25-0165. It's a City Administrative Officer report relative to the contract between the city and MSL Electric Inc. for the provision of conduit installation and material services for traffic signal installation and modification. Item 3 is Council File 20-1041-S5. It's the Los Angeles Department of Transportation report relative to a grant agreement with California Air Resources Board for the Sustainable Transportation Equity Project, Universal Basic Mobility Pilot in South Los Angeles. Item 4 is Council File 25-0204. It's a motion by Council Members Padilla, Raman, and Blumenfield relative to the preparation and submission of a letter of intent to the County Metropolitan Transportation Authority for funding for Segment 4 of the Valley LA Riverway for Cycle 2 of the Metro Active Transportation Grant Program and related matters. Item 5 is Council File 25-0206. It's a motion by Council Members McOsker and Park relative to the installation of a green carved zone with 15-minute parking between the two property driveways located at 25904 Southwestern Avenue, pursuant to California Vehicle Code 22506 and related matters. Item 6 is Council File 25-0181, Board of Transportation Commissioners Report relative to the amendment of the parking restriction in Preferential Parking District Number 3 in the Reseda area of Council District 4. Item number 7 is Council File 24-1222. It's a motion by Council Members Rahman et al. Harris Dawson relative to modifying traffic signal timing citywide to operate with dwell recall, transit signal priority, or preemption along at-grade rail lines, bus rapid transit lines, and full-time and part-time transit lanes and related matters.
Thank you. Member, would you like to discuss any of the items 2 through 7?
No, thank you, Chairwoman.
Thank you. Then on item 2, I recommend we approve the CAO's recommendation. On item 3, I recommend we approve the Department of Transportation's recommendation. On item 4, I recommend we adopt the motion. On item 5, I recommend we adopt the motion and Caltrans resolution. On item 6, I recommend we approve the Department of Transportation's recommendation. And on item 7, I recommend we adopt the motion. Members, on these items, I ask for your aye vote. Mr. Clerk, please call it.
Certainly, Madam Chair. Councilmember Hutt,
Aye.
Councilmember Park, absent. Councilmember Hernandez,
Yes.
2 ayes, and items 2 through 7 is approved.
Thank you. Now I'd like to take up items 8 through 11. Mr. Clerk, please read the items.
Certainly, Madam Chair. Item 8 is Council File 25-0194. It's a resolution by Council Members Blumenfield and Rodriguez relative to the California Vehicle Code Section 22507A, which instructs the Los Angeles Department of Transportation to post no stopping between 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. signs on the east side of Reseda Boulevard between Country Club Place and St. Moritz Drive to address criminal activity associated with parked vehicles along the street segment and related matters. Item 9 is Council File 25-0008-S2. It's a resolution by Council Members Park and Lee relative to parking prohibitions of vehicles that are in excess of 22 feet in length or over 7 feet in height during the hours of 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. along both sides of Kentwood Avenue, from West 80th Place to Manchester Avenue, Glasgow Place from 102nd Street to 104th Street, Grandview Boulevard from Palms Boulevard to Sharnak Road, Federal Avenue from Wilshire Boulevard to Rochester Avenue, and related matters. Item number 10 is Council File 25-0008-S3. It's a resolution by Council Members Hutt and Nazarian relative to parking prohibition of vehicles that are in excess of 22 feet in length or over 7 feet in height during the hours of 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. along both sides of Guthrie Avenue between Venice Boulevard and La Cienega Boulevard, and the posting of signs giving notice of a tow-away no parking restriction for oversized vehicles and related matters. Item number 11 is Council File 25-0008-S4. It's a resolution by Council Members Hutt and Padilla relative to parking prohibition of vehicles that are in excess of 22 feet in length or over 7 feet in height during the hours of 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. along both sides of Sawyer Street from South Holt Avenue to South Worcester Street, and the posting of signs giving notice of a tow-away no parking restriction for oversized vehicle and related matters.
Thank you so much. Do you have any of these items you wish to discuss?
No, Chairwoman, thank you.
Thank you very much. On items 8 through 11, I recommend we adopt the resolution. Mr. Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Certainly, Madam Chair. Councilmember Hutt,
Aye.
Councilmember Park absent, Councilmember Hernandez.
No.
So we have one aye and one no, so we don't have a majority vote. So resolutions 8 to 11 will move forward without
No
approval,
recommendation.
with no recommendation.
Thank you. Now let's move on, Mr. Clerk, and members, to item 1. Mr. Clerk, please read item 1 into the record.
Certainly, Madam Chair. Item number 1 is Council File 25-1200-S5. It's a communication from the Mayor relative to the appointment of Juan Solorio to the Board of Transportation Commissioners for the term ending June 30, 2026.
Thank you. I'd like to ask Mr. Solario to come to the table and let us get to know a little bit about you, your interest in serving on the Board of Transportation and as Commissioner for the City of Los Angeles. The floor is yours.
Oh, awesome. Good morning, Chairperson Hunt, Councilmember Hernandez. I'm excited to be sitting here with you today and incredibly honored to be considered for appointment to the Transportation Committee. I am humbled by this appointment and take seriously the opportunity to serve my city and my community. I want to thank Mayor Bass and a lot of my supporters and advocates and boosters and champions for this opportunity. More about me, I have spent all but 3 years of my life living in the city of Los Angeles, and more specifically, living in the Northeast Valley, where I call communities such as Mission Hills, Pacoima, Arleta, and Sylmar my home. It is there where I organized in community with residents, collaborated with city, county, and state agencies to be more responsive to Angelenos. It is these experiences that I carry with me into this appointment: passion for service, love for community, using government to make a positive impact on Angelenos' lives. For 6 years, among other responsibilities and accomplishments, I had the pleasure to work with the Department of Transportation on many of quality of life issues as a representative for Councilmember Monica Rodriguez. I coordinated strategic engagement efforts to solicit community input on the now open LA DOT Sylmar Commuter Express that serves thousands of residents and allows them to commute to school, work, and nearby destinations. I collaborated with residents and the department to implement critical safety improvements such as road restriping and additional signage installations to improve pedestrian safety along main corridors when vehicle-pedestrian collisions were impacting our communities. I've helped connect department personnel to residents in need of relief via the preferential parking district, and advocated on behalf of schools for crossing guard resources. My time with the office of the councilwoman was the most challenging and most rewarding experience of my life. Most recently, I graduated with a master's in urban and regional planning from UCLA and completed my capstone research project by studying vehicle yielding rates at Hawk signals, or high-intensity activated crosswalk beacons for the Department of Transportation. Currently, I serve as a program manager with the Los Angeles Economic Development Corporation on the California Jobs Program, an innovative economic development planning initiative that centers community, inclusion, and equity in the economic development planning process with the goal of creating good, high-paying jobs and laying the foundation for a more equitable and prosperous future for all Angelenos. Lastly, I want to just thank my family and my friends for their support and hope that I make my 3 youngest sisters proud. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I had questions about what kind of experience you have in transportation, but I feel like you shared that with us already, and that you really have a affinity for your community and for public service. So I'm glad to know that. I do want to know what sparked your interest in transportation. Of all the things you could have community engagement about. Why transportation?
Yeah, I think as my time with the city, I worked with a lot of planners on how to increase pedestrian safety, how to center community in those planning processes. And it was there that I found just the impacts and how critical just those improvements, those enhancements, how they impact everyday residents, whether it's walking on sidewalks, whether it's finding a way to get to work, whether it's the frequency of buses in certain communities. I know in my community, there was one specific bus that residents used to try to take to downtown, but they only ran once an hour. I don't think that route is there anymore because of the next gen plan for Metro. But again, working with residents to try to get to Metro and how to have their voice heard so that adequate services are available for all Angelenos. It was that kind of connection that really inspired me to pursue a planning degree and give something back to the transportation area.
Thank you. Any questions?
Yes, Chairwoman. Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you so much, Mr. Solorio, for stepping up into this position. We need fresh eyes on a lot of this work. And thank you for sharing about your experiences and your background. I have a question around balance, right? Right now we have a housing crisis, and we have a crisis where we don't have enough safe street infrastructure. In many communities, there's not enough parking. And so how do you intend to balance those 3 things, and in your role try to move us forward as a city by developing more housing, by getting a more safe street infrastructure, and by figuring out how we support our communities like Pico Union that doesn't really have parking?
Right. Yeah, I mean, for me, I think it's a whole of government approach. Transportation, public transportation is something that we need to continue investing. There's environmental concerns that impact everyone, not just one specific community. And so, there's a balanced approach that's going to be needed in terms of residents and their concerns, but understanding that as a city, we need to reach long-term goals to invest in a cleaner economy, in clean transportation, because in the long run, all those things are going to promote sustainability and also sustain our economy as well. And so I think for me, I hope as a commissioner, I have the opportunity to really engage with community, with residents about these issues, be thoughtful about their concerns, but also have that long-term goal of creating a sustainable society for Angelenos, for our city.
Great. Thank you so much. Those are all my questions, Chairman.
Thank you. Are there any objections to recommending the mayor's appointment to the full city council?
No, Chairman.
Seeing none, then let's vote on item number 1. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Certainly, Madam Chair. Councilmember Hutt,
Aye.
Councilmember Park absent, Councilmember Hernandez.
Yes.
2 ayes and item 1 is approved.
Thank you. This
Thank
will
you.
move on to.
Appreciate you.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, let's move on to number 12. Please read the item for the record.
Certainly, Madam Chair. Item number 12 is Council File 22-1465. It's a Los Angeles Department of Transportation report relative to an evaluation and recommendations to retain, repurpose, or remove peak hour lanes.
Thank you. At this point, I'd like to ask the Department of Transportation to come to the table and share a brief presentation on the item.
Good morning, council members. My name is Mackenzie Racy. I'm the Assistant General Manager of External Affairs at LADOT. Here today on behalf of our General Manager who could not be here. I'm joined by Crystal Killian, Principal Engineer over District Operations. I'll give you a brief overview of the subject in front of you, and then I'll hand it to her to go into detail on how we did this work. So generally speaking, peak hour lanes are parking restrictions. They're the lanes where at certain times of day they're used for travel, and the rest of the day they're used as parking. The city implemented a handful of these in the 80s. The thinking at the time was that they would increase congestion at those peak commute hours when traffic volumes were at their highest. While they can be effective under some conditions, generally speaking, these lanes do not significantly reduce congestion, and they can even have unintended safety or mobility implications. So as directed by council, LADOT evaluated all peak hour lanes across the city to determine where they could be better used for full-time parking, maybe for peak hour bus service, or even for bicycle facilities. Again, I'll ask Crystal to speak to the details of the evaluation, but I just want to highlight a few key takeaways. I think most importantly, and one that really surprised me, of the 220 miles of peak hour lanes across the city of LA, 86% of those are located on the high injury network, which of course is our streets where the highest number of crashes occur. Like I said, many of them do operate below traffic capacity, and so the peak hour lanes themselves are not serving their intended benefit. On streets where the volume is low and the roadway width is sufficient, we can remove peak hour lanes to accommodate both full-time parking and new bike facilities. And on streets where transit service is frequent, we can even implement peak hour bus lanes to improve service reliability by up to 15%. So LADOT's recommendations to retain, repurpose, or remove peak hour lanes are based on these safety and mobility considerations. Where traffic volumes are low and impacts are expected to be very minimal, we can execute those recommendations pretty quickly with existing resources. Where traffic volumes are high, where treatments will require more extensive changes to how the road is used, each of those corridors will require more dedicated engagement and additional resources. And I think with that overview, I'll hand it over to Crystal to provide more detail about our assessment and answer any questions.
Thank you, Crystal Killian, Principal Transportation Engineer over District Operations. LADOT conducted an assessment and it created an inventory of all of these peak hour lanes and then looked at the volumes of these corridors to assess if we felt the lanes were being fully utilized to decrease congestion or if there were opportunities to repurpose. We also looked at the mobility corridors such as the transit and the bike opportunities and the roadway widths to see if there were opportunities with the width to maybe implement a bicycle facility. While peak hour lanes may provide some capacity enhancement, our Vision Zero team basically identified there was a lot of safety consequences as well, with over 80% of them being on our high injury network. The restrictions out there vary significantly between morning hours only, afternoon hours only, with differing hours of operations based upon specific needs within those areas. While LADOT recommends that we retain the peak hour lanes on streets above certain thresholds, we do not want to retain them on the high injury network. And we also need to look at the repurposing on our mobility plan networks. DOT does recommend that all peak hour lanes on the HIN be removed and look at those opportunities for the bike and bus opportunities. We would like to remove all peak hour lanes on corridors that are not on the HIN and restore the parking and the community benefits and implement bike infrastructure where possible. Finally, where there are peak hour lanes that are at higher volume roadways that may have some impacts, we still want to remove them, but we want to take into consideration the mobility plan and next gen bus designations to look at the future removal and repurposing. Our action plan is to first remove the HIN streets that are low volume, then look at the non-HIN streets that are also low volume. Then next look into our mobility plan corridors that are on the HIN and look at repurposing them, and finally adjust the hours where we're seeing some necessity. So thank you again.
Thank you. I have a few questions. I'm sure that my colleague does too. So when you're saying, you gave us kind of what the priority is first and then secondary, what's the timeline look like? Is this something that we'll be able to start this year? Is it next month?
So for that first category of corridors where they're on the high injury network and they are below traffic capacity, those are really the first order of business for us. Those are the corridors that we can complete with existing resources. Once we begin that work, it'll take us about 6 months. The work really looks like removing signage, adding a striping lane to convert that parking lane into, or that peak hour lane into full-time parking. Our field crews are very strapped at the moment, and so I can't say when that work will begin, but the sum total of our first phase of work is expected to take about 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
After that, the higher volume roads will require additional engagement, so they will take us a little longer.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and then what does the funding look like? Because we're going to do sign changing and so on, and what do you think you need to implement this project?
So for those streets that are on the high injury network, we're proposing to use our existing Vision Zero funds to make safety improvements on those corridors. Where we may need additional resources is on streets that are not on the high injury network, but are on mobility plan networks and require additional treatments. Any street where we're proposing or where the mobility plan advises on a bike facility would need assessment for pavement quality and may need additional work based on the city's obligations. But we can do the parking replacement on the HIN with existing resources.
Using Vision Zero.
Correct,
funds.
yeah.
And then where you're looking at bike or bus, then what funds are you looking for in that space?
Again, if they're on the high injury network, I believe we can use that funding.
We could use Vision Zero, but stuff that's on the bike network, if Streets LA needs to be involved regarding the pavement, I'm not sure what their funding source would be.
Those mobility plan streets will be subject to HLA compliance and require a holistic assessment.
So you have to do a pavement assessment as well in those spaces with
For bike
Streets LA?
streets.
Okay. You have any questions?
I do, Chairwoman.
Go right ahead.
Thank you. So on this, I love this department, everybody. This is just prime example of 10 out of 10 right here. For the side that's on the Vision Zero side or the high injury network side, where it says evaluate for bike lane feasibility in phase 1, that is the HLA work y'all are talking about?
Basically, yes.
Okay. Well, that's very exciting.
Well, and I just want to add a little detail. There are some streets where there may be existing enough roadway width existing to restore full-time parking and just add a bike lane without additional work. There are going to be many cases where the mobility plan calls for a protected bike lane, and that's going to require additional planning, design, and engagement work because the trade-offs will be higher.
Great. And so can you run through that first example right now of the parking spots and the bike lane? That is not phase 1, right? Not this.
It's unlikely that there will be many streets that that meet the roadway width to accommodate both without
Got it.
additional trade-offs.
Okay.
I unfortunately didn't prepare it, so I can't answer it
That's
with
my
that
understanding.
specificity.
Okay, great. And then, do you all have like a breakdown of like this many miles would fit under this category? This many miles would fit under the Vision Zero funding?
I don't know, Crystal, if we have that available today.
I have some general numbers. I do know that in phase one, it looks like there's about 20 miles that involve lane removal that are on the HIN, which would be Vision Zero money. And there's about 7 miles that are proposed for modification of the restriction hours that are also on the HIN.
Mm-hmm.
I just did a note that there's overall 129 miles that are on a bike network and about 53 miles that are on a comprehensive or moderate plus bus network.
Great. And so the bike lane one, you said it's 127 miles?
129.
129, and that can range from a simple line to a higher level of infrastructure under HLA.
So we'll have to look to the mobility plan to see what the guidance is.
Okay.
Part of why we created this flow chart is that every time we talk about this, it's a bit of a Rorschach test. You can kind of slice and dice it a bunch of different ways. So we're trying to create sort of a hierarchy of decision making. It starts with whether or not it's got safety issues, followed by if there's mobility guidance, followed by traffic volumes that really just determine how simple the work will be and what impacts we can expect.
Great, that's exciting, and mostly I ask because I think about the dollars, right, that are going to be covering this. Like, this is great that this is covered with Vision Zero, but like if we knew perhaps like, well, we have 129 bike lane potential miles, like what does that resource look like? You know, if you broke that down even further, because I think it'd just be important for us to know, and especially on these high energy networks. That's why I asked, but we can keep talking about it, and if y'all can keep us posted on like how we are digging into that 220 miles in our work on that, that'd be really great. Thank you.
Maybe I'll just add as a last note that we will, of course, work directly with each council office for the corridors that are in their districts and make sure you're clear on which ones are moving forward in phase one and which ones will have more dedicated engagement campaigns in order to rethink the street.
Yes, and please don't hesitate to also let us know how we can be a value added to do the community outreach, right? So we can bring people to the event, so because we want this to be successful and we want people to be informed. That was one of my questions around that, but you said it that it will take a HLA level of engagement, which
for phase two projects for sure.
Yeah. Okay, wonderful. I'm just checking if I want to ask any of the others. Do you expect that you will need to do any sort of media campaign around this?
We're having conversations about how appropriately to engage, especially on those phase one corridors where the trade-offs are expected to be minimal and the treatment, the change to the street is also quite minimal. It's really about behavior change and making sure if you've been driving, that street every morning to get to work and you have grown accustomed to that peak hour lane, how do we make sure people using the street are aware that that is no longer available during those hours? It is now full-time parking. I think we'll absolutely need to work with your offices to promote that information, likely local news sources as well. I think it's a real behavior change campaign.
Thank you. And then, well, we already talked about the different type of lanes, but we don't have those numbers yet on the fiscal impact, which would be great to get. Can you just to close out, explain to us some of the trade-offs with repurposing or removing peak hour travel lanes, particularly around low and high traffic areas?
I think some of the trade-offs really come into looking at the mobility plan, and does it require the elimination of parking to add maybe the bike infrastructure, or is the removal just to convert it to a bus-only lane, which isn't necessarily adding parking back, but it is increasing our transit reliability. There's a lot of factors in all of these. Roadway widths vary radically across the city and even sometimes along the corridors. And so doing a comprehensive assessment on all of the pluses and the minuses block by block requires a lot of analysis and effort.
And maybe we should have said, when we're talking about traffic volume thresholds, we applied our roadway reconfiguration guidelines, which set thresholds to determine what we expect any travel delay to be and really inform our community engagement. So for those below the threshold, expected travel delay would be quite low. And for those above, we would want to engage and make sure we're working with the community to make the best recommendation.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you for your work. Thank you, Chairwoman.
Thank you. Are there any objections to approving the DOT's recommendation? Seeing none. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Certainly, Madam Chair. Councilmember Hutt,
Aye.
Councilmember Park, absent. Councilmember Hernandez,
Yes.
2 ayes, and the report is approved.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, let's move on to item number 13.
Certainly, Madam
Please
Chair.
read it into the record.
Item number 13 is Council File 24-0037. It's a city attorney and Los Angeles Department of Transportation reports relative to the impact of California Assembly Bill 436 regarding cruising laws and enforcement and community engagement. This item was also referred to the Public Safety Committee.
Thank you. City Attorney and the DOT, please come to the table and give us a brief presentation.
Morning, members. My name is Jonathan Bisley. Morning, members. My name is Jonathan Bisley, the City Attorney's Office,
There you
Public Safety General Counsel Division. I'm here to address the report prepared by my office relative to Assembly Bill 436 and its impacts on cruising laws and enforcement.
If you just push it once, then it'll stay on for you.
Thank you.
So when you're answering questions, you know. Thank you very much. I think that we both have a few questions, so I'll start with my questions. What does the city attorney's office or LAPD feel the city can accomplish by utilizing a special event permit for certain activities? Graham, do you want to come up? Okay. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Deputy Chief Don Graham. I'm the Commanding Officer of Transit Services Bureau for LAPD. So there's 3 major points that I want to hit in support of the City Attorney's report. And the first being, with a special events permit, it will allow us to bring resources into an area prior to an event like a cruising event, like signage. That signage would help motorists who usually use those routes to commute to understand that an event is coming up, and will allow them to be deferred away from that, and they can make their planning. They can plan accordingly. The second is, once a special event permit is used to close off an area and allow an event to occur, then minor violations of the vehicle code would no longer apply during the period of time where that street was closed. So the slow speed of the movement, the operation of the vehicles on the roadway, the normal traffic controls, those would no longer be infractious violations of the California Vehicle Code under the special events permit, as long as those things were done safely. And the final thing is the special events permit process would allow for a common level of expectation for everybody involved, not just law enforcement, Department of Transportation, and the organizers, but also an opportunity for the council offices to share with their business constituents and the people who utilize those roadways on a regular basis about an upcoming event or a series of upcoming events. And in my experience, the solid understanding of expectations minimizes the opportunities for misunderstanding, and it's the misunderstandings that cause tension and escalation of groups that are involved. So I think that it provides many benefits to the community as well as to the cruiser community.
Thank you. Go ahead, you wanted to add?
Yes, so just to add on what Deputy Chief Graham has addressed, the city has long recognized the cultural significance of local lowrider clubs and cruising events. However, I think it's important for this committee to realize that it's not just a matter of a few cars parading around the block. It is the mass assembly of people that these events attract. So the recommendation, or at least the exploration of a special event permit, is a matter of public safety. These events can often have the potential to and have grown in scale where the event becomes difficult to manage, diverting city resources, creating traffic congestion, excessive noise, property damage, and other public safety concerns. These events have also attracted ATVs, motorbikes, and other off-road vehicles which drive over medians and onto sidewalks, conducting vehicle stunts that endanger both the drivers and pedestrian and bystanders. Large crowds have also migrated into private commercial lots, disrupting local businesses. And finally, these gatherings risk mushrooming into dangerous criminal assemblies, including sideshows and street takeovers. Now, AB 4030, the legislative history of AB 436 recognizes the importance of balancing cruising events with the need to protect public safety. And just to emphasize what LAPD has noted, these special event permits not only can city authorities proactively work with these event organizers to address the public safety concerns highlighted, they assure that these events are held in a community-friendly, family-friendly manner. And again, this has also been highlighted by the legislative history as well as the author of AB 436, who specifically stated, with a partnership between car clubs, local officials, and law enforcement, safe cruising events with lowriders and classic cars can provide a fun and festive event for families in our communities.
Thank you. What do you think that the community outreach plan will be? Are you going to go through neighborhood councils? Are you and whose responsibility is that?
I can defer that question either to the Department of Transportation or to LA.
So I'm assuming we're having the permit process, but how do we let the folks know?
Well, if I may, I think the Department of Transportation report has a very robust outreach component to it that LAPD will be happy to support using our own social media and our media contacts. So that piece is also with the DOT. LAPD, as you know, has our senior lead officers and those kind of community connections that we can utilize to talk directly to neighborhood councils, to our neighborhood watch groups, in order to raise awareness of the process, raise awareness of upcoming permits. And again, the permitting process will allow for the prediction of where these things are going to be, so that we can really focus that messaging on the communities that it's going to impact in potentially a positive way, by bringing people from around the region to come and watch this show, and then benefiting local businesses and things like that would allow them to adjust their staffing levels. And there's a lot of benefits to the predictability of the permitting process. But as far as the messaging piece, I think that we would follow DOT's robust messaging plan and support it every way we can.
I'll just say our report provides guidance on broad community engagement about the change in state law, which is really about the enforcement of cruising. It is not specific to encouraging people to use a special permit program, which is something I think is even further outside of our purview, but the same general mechanisms or strategies for engagement could be applied. We work closely with Streets LA, with PD, City Attorney's Office, as well as Council Districts 1 and 6 to develop those best practices, but they're not specific to a special permit program. They're really about making sure folks are aware of the change in state law.
Thank you. That's all my questions. Go right ahead.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Although AB 436 does not allow the city to regulate cruising, have you all been enforcing any other regulations associated with cruising or car club gatherings?
Insofar as vehicle code violations and unsafe operation of a vehicle, yes.
Okay.
As well as I believe that there's parking restrictions, if there are parking restrictions that happen to be in areas where that activity is occurring. So from the public safety standpoint, yes, we are using the existing vehicle code sections when we see things that are unsafe.
Great, thank you. For DOT, have you all been able to identify all locations where the anti-cruising signs are located and what the timeline would be to take them down?
Hi, yes, we have started removing signs where there were previously anti-cruising zones or enforcement areas. I'm not sure if we've completed that work. I'm going to ask Crystal Killian to maybe come back up and say. Have we done all of it?
I don't have a firm understanding, but I know out in the valley, they've been working with the council district to remove the signs
Okay.
because of the change in state law. I don't know about other areas.
We've definitely started that work, and we're happy to get that information and come back with how far along we are and whether or not there's additional work needed.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And please let us know if we can be helpful. And also, again, please lean on us as a resource for the community engagement portion. I would love to know what the timeline is for the special permit process. When do you think that'll be something that we can start advertising? And because I have Dodger Stadium in my district, which has Elysian Park, which is, you know, one of the places where cruising happens, and we had its first permitted car show in that area last year, and so we had to do a lot of legwork for that, but. So I'm really interested in this opportunity. I think we have communities that would definitely buy into that opportunity of getting a special event permit. Do we have a timeline when we can expect to have it?
So to the extent that all parties are agreeable that a special event permit to hold these types of events is something that the city would like to move forward, it's just a matter of setting up the proper protocols who regulate these special event permits. So neither the Department of Transportation nor LAPD processes these permits. It would be the Bureau of Street Services. And I'm not sure if there's a representative today who can address whether or not that permitting process, how soon that permitting process can begin.
Great. It would be great if we could get them here next time because, I mean, everybody knows we're in a deficit, and so this is a revenue opportunity instead of us just having to respond to the issue, which means we just spend money on it. So, yeah. Chairwoman, is that something we could explore in the future, bringing them in to talk about it? BSS?
Well, we would move how would we do that, Andrew? We would move will they come back to transportation or Andrew? So they'll.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay. Thank you.
So does she need to make an amendment or?
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
So BSS here. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, are there any objections to approving the city attorney's recommendation and filing the report?
No, Chair.
Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Certainly, Madam Chair. Councilmember Hutt,
Yes.
Councilmember Park absent, Councilmember Hernandez.
Yes.
2 ayes and the item is noted and filed.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, are there any additional business before the committee today?
The desk is clear, Madam Chair.
Mr. Clerk, I want to say happy retirement to you. We certainly working with us and your commitment to the city and the commitment to Transportation Committee. We know this is your favorite committee. And so we wanted to say many happy retirement experiences. We know you like to travel, and so we expect you to come back and visit us sometime.
Of course.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. If I could share some words too, Mr. Villanueva, I'm very excited for you to continue traveling the world, but also you help so many people on your adventures and journeys. And so I hope that you get some time to like fill your cup so that you can keep helping people all across the world. So thank you for sharing love with people. Thank you for being here with us and running these committee meetings so efficiently. And thank you for doing all the work you've done for many, many years, decades for the city of Los Angeles.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember.
Desk is clear. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.